Okay, on to the next one. It's called Body. Yeah. So the next one is Body. I don't even know why I'm showing you the screen, but I'm assuming so that we make sure we're on the same one. Now, Body is about Klay. Klay is a very interesting character, because their view of the world comes from this whole discussion around the body, around, what is perceived. And this character, I want to be very delicate when bringing out their story. So I may not necessarily touch on them as much as I would want to. But it would be very interesting that as we go along to get to understand their perspective and how they view their identity. So here I took a picture of, course, me, like, as though I'm doing, physically fit. Oh my goodness, the way the slides are coming to my head is just something else. Okay, here we go. Grew at its own rate to a clear distinction as a woman. Had no idea the need of a manual to be under constant defensive and submissiveness versus just as a soul. Be elegant and gentle like a flower, shining brightly hoping to be picked up. Check your watch, don't be out late past sunset on the wrong lane. Dress based on the occasion and norm. Keep their bodies safe and healthy to be able to create the next generation. Don't wait for age before you do. Being owned is a fulfillment. To say a few out of the 1,000-yard scroll of instruction and expectations, program encoded. Body. This is talking about more or less the distinction that at birth no one technically identifies your soul or your spirit. Immediately they check, are you a boy or a girl? The celebrations that we do these days, like, is it a boy or is it a girl? And the reactions people have whether it's a boy or a girl, sometimes I'm like, Does it matter? Does it not matter? When did it start mattering? That's a word, yeah. And so here the discussion is saying that it grew at its own rate to a clear distinction as a woman. Before the age of 8 or puberty hits, sometimes it's very hard to tell a girl different from a boy, especially if you dress them, let's say you dress them like androgynously. You're not able to tell a boy and a girl different, aside from, especially if they have very strong, distinct features. And when they're babies, it's even harder to tell, unless the parents are putting on certain colors or clothes so that you will kind of immediately tell, oh, that's a girl, that's a boy. But if you didn't do that, you wouldn't necessarily associate the whole aspect of being a boy and a girl until, your body now starts showing the boobs and the curves, and sometimes some of us grow up being stick figures and everything, but just the general distinction that defines the woman and the man. And so at that particular point is where you realize there's a lot of encoded messaging around it that until later, when you grow out of society's norm or you start questioning things or you experience, you go to different places and see how women live differently, either those who have become extra submissive or those who have way more freedom or those who are way more assertive, having different conversations with different women who have had different experiences, and start challenging, like, does this really apply to me or no? Is it even, why does it even matter what my soul is supposed to experience, aside from also noting that my body is engineered in a manner that I would be able to give birth to another soul. And then this whole discussion, and I again do not want to tread in the comments about this, it's just my perception and view here. And it's meant to jumpstart that kind of conversation of genuinely, what does it mean to be a woman or a man? So in this case, looking from Klay's perspective, the question, or some of the notes that they took, is the aspect of be elegant and gentle like a flower, shining brightly, hoping to be picked up. And this speaks a lot to the dating culture and marriage, where at some particular point you had to be ultra feminine or less assertive, always looking shiny and bright, so that then you can hope to be picked up. Now, there are two parts of this line. One, you can decide to be, gentle like a flower, shining brightly. The flag here is that is for hoping to be picked up. It's not necessarily for your intention or your experience that you want to be that gentle, soft flower. It is implied that you have to do that for you to be picked up. And again, you can see how the connotations here go as to whether it's something that you want to do for yourself because you feel aligned with that energy and flow, or you have to do that for you to be picked up, yet there's no implication on what the other side has to do. And this also speaks to this part of, I always say this, that women who have been denied the night. If you live in a country where you cannot walk late at night, dress how you want and not fear constantly with one earphone in or walking and checking your back and all that. I remember the some of the guys I used to date, and they'll get kind of frustrated with the idea of me saying like, nope, I'm not walking in the middle of the night if I do not know that street. If I know that street is used to a lot of thuggery, I am not doing that. And I would see a little bit of their frustration. At the same time, it took me a while to process like, wow, I'm like a caged bird. I generally have to get to a place or a space within a certain time. And if I was to walk alone and anything happens to me, it will go back to this particular line of, check your watch and make sure you're not out late past sunset on the wrong lane. There's no one time I would be curious to see what your experiences are or thoughts are on that particular line. Another instruction, dress based on occasion and norm. This talks about two things. So one thing, again, you can choose to dress for the occasion because there's an understanding of what could clearly distinguish you being out for a cocktail, or you going out for hiking, or you're going to a gym. You can wear a wedding dress at a gym and things like that because the functionality of the dress speaks to it. Then there's the aspect of the occasion. The word norm added to it is where we tend to put aside or instinctively just judge people who choose to dress differently, and particularly women. And this can come to very many different connotations. I think you already have ideas scrolling through your mind where this could be applicable. And it goes even further, talking about keep that body safe. Again, associating back to the dress and the occasion and the norm, that you need to keep that body safe and healthy to be able to create the next generation. This can speak as a word of advice. At the same time, it can speak to as a word of restriction. That women these days can choose not to have children. And if they want, of course, if you want to procreate, you'd have to keep your body healthy and taking care of it. So there's this borderline of, yes, you need to keep your body healthy, though, as we know, most times when you tell somebody something, they tend to do the opposite in rebellion. So it depends on the messaging, especially if such a good message is intertwined within such kind of a message, because what happens next is the line says, don't wait for age before you do. And this speaks to the whole biological clock. You have to do this by this time. You need to get pregnant before you're 30. Past 30, how are you going to take care of a baby? And scientifically, it's been shown it's not about like at 30, then you're not able to get pregnant. It's just that your fertility goes down by a percentage. Does not mean it's not possible. And where technology is going these days, as well with options to surrogacy, freezing your eggs, adoption, is becoming more and more flexible to choose when you'd want to become a mother and when you feel comfortable to become a mother, either by yourself or with a partner. Again, all these different decisions are open. It's just that in society and what's expected is that there is this particular timeline suggested, the instructions that is kind of embedded in your mind without realizing that there are other options. Lastly, being owned is a fulfillment. Now, I put the word owned in quotation marks because, again, we don't own our own souls. When we came here, you are here to explore. Like, if I was to ask you, regardless, man or woman, do you consider the whole world your birthright, or where you were born and on which piece of land or country as your birthright? Like, if we do not have any borders or countries or policies and that, does your mind feel free to explore every inch of this world, feeling comfortable to do so without any restriction or biases? This is where the question is coming from. But more or less, this one now speaks to the idea of, again, being married or being in a relationship, that if you are able to feel, if you're able to get owned, then there's fulfillment. And this ties you away from thinking about other ways to be fulfilled. First of all, even starting from within, and your own expression of what do I want to experience in this journey of the life that I've been given for however long it is. what will grant me fulfillment. If I end up in a relationship, that can be one of the ways I gain fulfillment. If I have children or whatever I want to do with my body, that is fulfillment to me. So that decision is not necessarily articulated as an option for oneself, rather implied that you have to do this for you to get fulfillment. And so, in other words, the whole Klay just says, like, to say a few of the 1,000-yard scroll of instruction and expectations, it's a program that is encoded. And therefore, Klay at this particular point is very conscious about it and just asks, like, does it really make sense when you really think about it? That if I was born as a baby and I came out already saying, okay, what does this world have to offer? What do I need to experience? Hot, cold, tastes, flavors, dances, music, art, things that are made by other people with their expressions of themselves. Or if I want to stay still in one place, do I want to have the experience of being in love with someone or not? Do I want to have children or not? Do I want to have a large family or not? Do I want to be solo, staying somewhere off-grid, or being around people, surrounded by people? Do we really question, aside from the instructions that come with our body that apparently designates us to what we should be in society, do we think beyond that? And what are we doing to pursue beyond that way of thinking? So that is body. I would like to know what your thoughts are as well in the comment section below, and what is your interpretation when you first read it. To be on the constant defensive. Let's start again.